In aviation, safety is everything. Every decision, every protocol, and every announcement is scrutinized by experts and the public alike, because the stakes are so high. The lives of millions of passengers depend on the reliability of these flying machines, and the trust placed in regulatory bodies is immense. When official statements are released, they can send shockwaves through the entire industry, affecting airlines, manufacturers, and travelers worldwide. The anticipation and anxiety that build up before such announcements are palpable, as everyone waits to see how the future of air travel might change in an instant. Today, July 12, 2025, the Federal Aviation Administration has delivered its long-awaited verdict on the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. This comes after the aircraft's first-ever fatal accident, which occurred just over a year ago and sent shockwaves through the aviation world. The eyes of the globe have been fixed on the FAA, awaiting their findings and recommendations. The FAA's conclusion is nothing short of astonishing. No new safety actions are required for the global Dreamliner fleet. This decision has left many in the industry stunned, as it goes against the expectations of analysts, airline staff, and even some regulators who anticipated sweeping changes, or at least temporary restrictions. For months, speculation had been mounting after the tragic crash of Air India Flight 171. Many believed the FAA would issue a costly grounding of the Dreamliner or impose a mandatory airworthiness directive, forcing airlines to make expensive modifications or inspections. The industry braced for impact, expecting a ripple effect across global operations. Instead, the FAA has chosen a different path. By separating previous advisories from the current investigation, they have declared the Dreamliner safe to fly, emphasizing that no new evidence has emerged to warrant further action. This approach highlights the agency's confidence in the aircraft's design and the thoroughness of their review process. For airlines and Boeing, this announcement is a massive relief. It means business can continue as usual, without the threat of costly disruptions. For passengers, it serves as an official assurance that the Dreamliner remains one of the safest ways to travel, backed by the highest regulatory authority in aviation. Yet, despite this verdict, a profound mystery remains. What truly happened in the cockpit of Air India 171? The FAA's decision may close one chapter, but it opens another, one filled with unanswered questions, and a search for the truth that will now begin to unravel. On the morning of June 12, 2024, Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787, 8 Dreamliner, prepared for a routine journey from Ahmedabad to Delhi. The aircraft, gleaming in the early light, was filled with 242 people, passengers and crew, each with their own stories, hopes, and destinations. For many it was just another flight, a short hop between two major Indian cities. The Dreamliner, celebrated for its advanced technology and impeccable safety record, was a symbol of modern aviation's promise. But just 32 seconds after takeoff, the unimaginable happened. Both of the aircraft's powerful GE engines suddenly lost power, leaving the pilots with no time to react. The Dreamliner plummeted from the sky, crashing into a densely populated residential neighborhood. The devastation was immediate and overwhelming. Nearly everyone on board perished, along with 19 innocent people on the ground. The peaceful morning was shattered by chaos, fire, and heartbreak. This tragedy marked the first fatal accident in the Dreamliner's history, ending its spotless safety record in the most shocking way possible. For years, the 787 had been hailed as one of the safest, most reliable jets in the world, a marvel of engineering that had safely carried millions of passengers across continents. Now, the world's eyes turned to Ahmedabad. News of the crash spread rapidly, dominating headlines and social media feeds. People everywhere were desperate for answers. How could such a modern, sophisticated jet fail so catastrophically and so quickly? The sense of shock was global, and the aviation community was left reeling. Within hours, teams of investigators from India's AAIB, the US NTSB, Boeing and GE arrived in Ahmedabad. Their mission, to uncover the truth behind the disaster. They combed through the wreckage, recovered the black boxes, and began piecing together the final moments of Flight 171. Theories quickly emerged. Some suspected a catastrophic bird strike, while others pointed to possible fuel contamination or a critical maintenance error. Each possibility was painstakingly examined, as investigators worked around the clock to rule out or confirm every scenario. Others wondered if the cause was even more troubling. a fundamental design flaw in the Dreamliner itself? Could there be a hidden vulnerability in the aircraft's systems or engines that had gone undetected until now? As days passed, confusion and speculation only grew. Official updates were slow and often vague, fueling rumors and anxiety among the public. Families of the victims waited in agony, desperate for any news, while the world's media demanded answers. The crash of Flight 171 became a defining moment, a critical test for aviation safety and for the reputation of the Dreamliner. Airlines, regulators, and passengers everywhere watched closely, wondering if their trust in modern air travel had been misplaced. As the sun rose over the wreckage and investigators pressed on, one thing was clear: the search for answers had only just begun, and the world would not rest until the truth was found. As the investigation began, a 2018 FAA advisory resurfaced, raising alarms. The Special Airworthiness Information Bulletin warned of a potential failure in the fuel control switch locking mechanism on all 787 models. If the spring-loaded lock failed, a switch could be accidentally moved from run to cutoff, shutting down an engine. The advisory recommended, but did not require, a one-time inspection. Air India, following regulations, had not performed this check on the accident aircraft. The parallels between the advisory and the crash were impossible to ignore. Media and industry scrutiny intensified. Had a known risk been overlooked? The 2018 bulletin, once routine, was now a potential smoking gun. The Boeing 787's fuel control switches are a critical part of the aircraft's engine management system. Located on the center console between the pilots, these switches are responsible for controlling the flow of fuel to each engine. When set to run, fuel is supplied and the engine operates normally. Moving the switch to cutoff immediately stops fuel flow, shutting down the engine. This simple interface belies the importance of the switches, as they are the pilot's direct link to engine power in both routine and emergency situations. To prevent accidental shutdown, each switch is fitted with a physical safety lock. Pilots must deliberately lift the switch over a mechanical gate before it can be moved to cutoff. This design ensures that shutting down an engine is always a conscious, intentional act, not something that can happen by mistake during turbulence or routine cockpit activity. The tactile feedback and resistance provided by the gate are crucial for safety, especially during high-stress moments. However, in 2018, the FAA issued an advisory highlighting a potential vulnerability. The spring mechanism that holds the safety lock in place could fail over time due to wear or manufacturing defects. If this spring were to break or lose tension, the switch could be moved more easily, increasing the risk of an unintentional engine shutdown. This seemingly minor mechanical issue suddenly became a major concern for flight safety. The consequences of both fuel control switches being moved to cutoff are severe. If both engines lose power, especially during critical phases like takeoff or initial climb, the aircraft would experience a total loss of thrust. In such a scenario, pilots would have only seconds to react, and the margin for recovery would be extremely slim. The risk of a catastrophic accident is very real. While the Boeing 787 is equipped with backup systems, such as the ram air turbine, these can only provide limited emergency electrical and hydraulic power. At low altitudes, these backups are not enough to restart the engines or maintain safe flight. The ram air turbine is a last resort, designed to give pilots just enough control to attempt an emergency landing, but it cannot replace lost engine thrust. Because of these risks, the integrity and reliability of the fuel control switches became a central focus of the investigation. Inspectors and engineers meticulously examined every component, searching for signs of wear, damage, or design flaws that could compromise safety. Investigators asked a critical question: could a mechanical failure, such as a broken spring or faulty lock, have bypassed all the built-in safeguards? If so, what other vulnerabilities might exist in the system, and how could they be addressed to prevent future incidents? The outcome of this investigation carried enormous stakes for the Dreamliner's reputation, and for the confidence of airlines and passengers worldwide. Ensuring the reliability of such a vital control was not just a technical challenge, it was essential for the future of the 787 program. A month after the crash, India's AAIB released its preliminary report. Data confirmed both engines lost power because their fuel control switches moved to cutoff seconds after takeoff. The cockpit voice recorder captured a frantic exchange. "Why did you cut off fuel?" "I did not do so." This suggested the shutdown was neither intentional nor coordinated by the pilots. Investigators faced three possibilities: accidental crew action, intentional interference, or a technical malfunction. The report avoided conclusions, keeping all options open. The Ram air turbine deployed as designed, but couldn't save the aircraft. The cause of the switch movement remained a haunting mystery. Investigators scrutinized the maintenance history of VTANB, the accident aircraft. The throttle control module, housing the fuel switches, had been replaced twice, once in 2019, again in 2023. These replacements should have revealed any obvious defects. All mandatory safety directives had been followed. No outstanding faults were found. The 2018 advisory was not mandatory, so Air India had not performed the suggested inspection. This left a gray area. Could a hidden problem have gone undetected? The clean maintenance record made the sudden failure even more baffling. The investigation struggled to rule out a mechanical cause. For a year after the crash, the industry braced for a grounding order. Airlines prepared for costly, disruptive inspections, or even a fleet-wide halt, fearing a repeat of the 737 MAX crisis. Theories of a design flaw in the fuel switches dominated headlines, eroding passenger confidence. The FAA faced immense pressure to act, with every day feeling like a countdown to a major directive. Airlines watched bookings drop, dreading operational chaos. The world waited for the FAA's decision, knowing it would define the Dreamliner's future. The tension was palpable across the industry. On July 12, 2025, the FAA stunned the world. No new safety actions were needed for the 787. The agency found no evidence linking the 2018 advisory to the Air India crash, decoupling the two issues. The threat of grounding or costly modifications vanished overnight. For airlines and Boeing, it was a massive relief and a restoration of confidence. The FAA's decision shifted the investigation's focus away from a design flaw and back to the cockpit. If the switches weren't faulty, human action, accidental or intentional, was now the prime suspect. The industry breathed easier, but the human mystery deepened. The FAA's announcement averted a crisis, saving airlines billions and restoring faith in the Dreamliner. But by ruling out a mechanical defect, the focus now returns to the cockpit of Flight 171. The CVR's recording of confusion and denial leaves only two possibilities: inadvertent action or intentional interference. The investigation's challenge has shifted from technical to human factors, a far more complex puzzle. The story is a sobering reminder that even the safest aircraft can face tragedy. The final report from Indian investigators is still to come. Only then will families and the world learn what truly happened in those fateful 32 seconds. The search for answers continues as the industry moves forward, forever changed.